Welcome back to Data Center News Asia. As part of what the audience won't actually know is a two-part recorded special, we do a catch-up episode. But there you go, peek behind the scenes in the curtain there.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've just been busy with various trips to Lombok to celebrate your birthday and things like that.
We're busy bees, it's a busy market. Don't forget our trip to Thailand for the massive market expansion going on there.
And we do have real jobs as well. So
we do actually have a day job outside of bringing you guys 2-week-old data center news. But we've got some pretty good stories that we missed whilst we were on our little hiatus. We're going to kick off with the big financial news story, which is probably not a surprise to anyone watching who is an industry regular, but big news nonetheless, and that is the news of KKR Singtel's, or KKR and Singtel's consortium's interest in buying out the remaining stake of ST Telemedia.
Yeah, I think both firms already have a stake, which I think we probably reported on earlier on in the year. KKR, what is it, 14%? Singtel at 4%. So just between them less than 20%. But they are looking to, they're kind of looking to acquire STT as basically a vehicle to expand throughout not only Asia, but of course STT also have the Versus business in Europe as well. So using that as a launchpad essentially to expand. No details. Will it become the NEXTDC brand? Will they keep the brand? How exactly will it work? But it looks like things are progressing.
I mean, I would have thought logically you'd roll NEXTDC into the far bigger, more established STT brand, I guess. But yeah, there's a pretty complicated backstory for both of these sides of it. So you have NEXTDC is a platform that was formerly Singtel, then was spun off as Digi Infraco, and it's had various names, but it's the Singtel assets that they've been finding ways to structure, and then KKR came in as the main financial backer to that, so that's why it's KKR Singtel as a joint kind of bidding unit. And then ST Telemedia, of course, is backed by Singapore's sovereign wealth fund, Temasek, and has been for most of its 9-10 years.
I think inception,
journey. Yeah, so STT probably top 5, definitely, maybe top 3 regional co-location player in terms of, I mean, if you look at it by capacity, maybe a bit behind, but they're certainly in almost every country, all the customers. So this bid, or this supposed bid, would value them at more than 5 billion Sing dollars or $4 billion US dollars, and that would be for 80% control. So yeah, lots of, and it's been confirmed by Singtel, by the way, that they are in conversation. So this was a couple of different news stories from different sources, but this is official that this is happening in some way, shape or form.
Yeah, so interesting. Don't believe anything has progressed since this was announced 2 or so weeks ago. But yeah, things are happening.
Yes. Other big deal, AirTrunk are set to buy what is listed as a gigawatt. A gigawatt site. I remember 100 megawatts was a really exciting big deal in Western Sydney. So as usual, the sourcing for this, for both us and DCD, comes through the Sears application format, a journalist's wet dream of every site in Australia, or certainly in New South Wales, has to go through this environmental study, and it's quite detailed. But this is, you said you were quite familiar with this site, ISPT.
Yeah, ISPT are real estate developer, I guess you would call them. So they submitted the application quite a while ago. We were actually across this site not quite a year ago, but we've had knowledge of this site for quite a while. Obviously, we knew there was going to be an operator. Did a bit of digging on our side. Yeah, we found out a couple of months ago. Well, probably 6 months ago at this stage, that it was indeed AirTrunk attached to the project, and now it's official, I guess, that AirTrunk are the ones behind it. If you look at the Sears applications, what they do is they quite often have the applications made by might be the design and build firm, it might be the construction firm, but they quite often don't have the operator or the hyperscaler in the case of self-build projects behind it. But eventually it obviously comes out, and yeah, this is it just being kind of announced. Because I think we did report on this ISPT application a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Couple of interesting things I want to put out here. So this is claim to be between 600 megawatts and a gigawatt as a site across 24 data halls, and they've listed the project costs as 5 billion Aussie or 3.3 billion US dollars. So this is quite a far cry from our traditional kind of $10 million a megawatt back of the back spots. I mean, obviously the scale here is massive, so you'd expect some economies of scale, but it's just the first time I'm seeing such a huge change somewhere like Australia when they're looking at that sort of valuation, the size.
Yeah, I saw a similar kind of costing and similar calculations recently as well for another project, not in Australia, but in was either Japan or Korea, I can't remember. I'm not sure. I wonder if it's like maybe it's AI sites and maybe there's a reduced amount of redundancy involved, and the engineering is not quite like it's not always on in the same way that a cloud region or a cloud AZ might need to be. So that could be it. I'm not sure though in this case.
Yeah, I was going to say the other use case here, well, the only use case for something this big would probably be some sort of AI training facility, which obviously Australia is in the. I mean, we've got other stories on that they're in talks for, and I suppose we should also note that these costs do not include the chips, because whoever is leasing this or using it will be bringing their own chips. So when you look at the total cost of one of these buildings, it's actually going to be 7 or 8 times that, I suppose, with the chips included.
Yeah, and I wonder if that costing is from the calculations on the Sears application, which will include
just core and shell there. I know it says it includes
it
diesel backup.
Yeah, you see, it may include some of the M&E equipment, but not all of it, or it may not include the white space and stuff like that. So, I wouldn't get too.
A core and shell calculation, maybe. Interesting. Other stories that we missed. So Google is building an AI. This is technically still an Australia story, although if you look at Christmas Island on a map, so this is where the crabs do their Christmas. This is a lovely scenic place to fill with an AI data center. This is just off the coast of Indonesia, so it's kind of on Australia's territorial waters, but it's up there. And this is also where Google are landing an AI cable that's coming from Oman, and they're launching another cable, and Brevin Slattery was posting a lot about the different cables coming through these parts of Australia. But yes, so Google are planning an AI outpost with no specification how big that is. Christmas Island.
No, there was, I saw another report on this site, and I think it's a relatively big, well, I think it's, I want to say there's a 6 in it somewhere. I think it was 16 megawatts the size of the facility supporting it.
That's,
don't quote me on that. Let's find a proper link. But I did see, and it's not your usual cable landing stations, which are generally kind of tiny in a DC perspective. Like, it was significant, if I remember correctly.
It's a big cable that's coming in. It's well, there's a new one there, and there's another one that's landed in Queensland. But
I want to say it was 16 megawatts. The facility being on top to support.
Yeah. Interesting.
But don't quote me on that. That's
a lot of capacity for computing crabs. Goodman they released some more financial numbers. Not a huge news story here, but just interesting to keep track of there. So they're announcing almost a 17.5 billion Australian dollar, or 11 billion real dollar construction pipeline, which is being fueled by data centers. Greg Goodman getting out there in the press. And another Australia one that we missed was, so this is quite interesting, an Australian neocloud company I've never heard of called SHARON AI, I thought Sheila AI might be a more appropriate one, have signed 50 megawatts with NEXTDC. This was interesting because it's a lot bigger than the other neocloud deals that we've been hearing in Australia.
Yeah, well, I was down in Australia in August, I think it was, September, like relatively recently, and was actually at a talk by one of the SHARON AI guys, and has spoken to a couple of different people across the industry about this deployment. And I was kind of getting excited at the time, because I think SHARON AI had told me that they were taking a couple of megawatts within NEXTDC, and like we've started to see some of these deals in Europe where some of these neo clouds are taking 10, 15, 20, that kind of size. So what would have traditionally been a kind of a hyperscale sized lease. So it's going to bring new customers into the market, which I think is good for the industry. I was like, wow, I think, I'm sure they told me it was sub 10 what they had at NEXTDC. I think even when I say it was sub 5. And so the fact that they've jumped up to 50, I'm sure that this is potentially 50 as opposed to taking 50 all at once. So yeah, it's a scale up kind of relationship, but it's it's really, really interesting. And if you watch our second episode, which we're going to record a bit later, we'll have
imminently, but it'll be out for you like Thursday, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, there's more news there, so sneak peek into the future.
Okay.
But yeah, exciting, and just shows that these neo clouds, as we should call them, yeah, they actually are real and taking capacity. So.
Yeah, when we do the long form
Exactly.
episodes, we should do some dive into the neocloud because that was quite interesting. Quick one from India. So there were two pieces of news here. We reported previously on Tata's plans for a gigawatt of data center capacity in India, a mere gigawatt. They have now launched this as a separate business unit from Tata. It's still obviously Tata owned, and it's called Hypervolt AI Data Center Limited, which really does describe the company, I suppose, in terms of its intentions. Yeah, so that was that, and there was also some more news on Techno Digital, or Techno Electric is a big EPC power company in India. They've launched Techno Digital. Ankit Saria is the CEO, and they're planning 250 megawatts in the next 5 years, which is still quite a lot of capacity. DayOne expanded their Thailand project to 300 megawatts and signed an MOU with, is AMATA the joint venture partner for the same first one? Can't remember.
Not sure.
Well, they've signed an MOU for their second site as well. So the nice photo of the DayOne team here in Thailand.
Yeah, saw this site actually there 2 weeks ago. It's a monster, multiple buildings being built concurrently. Yeah, really impressive. Like, I was slightly dubious about some of the developments in Thailand until I was there 2 weeks ago. But yeah, a lot happening, including this one. And I want to say there's certainly 2, potentially 3 of the buildings, like I said, concurrently being constructed. And yeah, the site's massive, nice site.
Well, I think people who have had questions on is the demand really there for Thailand would say that a vote of confidence from someone who's as clued into the customer base as DayOne would probably be a good vote for the market.
Yeah, but like that's just one example. Like several other projects getting built concurrently.
Yeah, and there was a new one in Ho Chi Minh from a company that we hadn't heard of.
No, that's not true.
Sorry, you had
a month
yes,
ago.
This is Kin-backed Development Holdings Company and Accelerated Infrastructure Capital. And this is a 200 megawatt site in Ho Chi Minh, which is the biggest one I've seen actually announced. Oh, AIC, this is John and Oliver. This is the former co-founders of Chaora.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
They're even in the picture.
I saw their LinkedIn. Sorry, that's very rude.
Yeah, so I didn't know they were involved, but I had been speaking to the other partners within it.
It's actually JB that I thought was photoshopped into the picture, so I assume you were actually in Vietnam.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Saw the industrial park again about a month ago, and yeah, exciting development. It's yet to take off in the same way that maybe Bangkok or Johor will, or has, I should say, but a lot of potential there. So interesting one, and like I said, the fact that the AIC team are involved is exciting as well, because they've obviously got a lot of know-how.
And we'll wrap up this episode with an update from SK Telecom, who are planning a 10-fold expansion for their data center in Ulsan, which, by the way, was previously targeted at 100 megawatts. So this is not like upgrading a server cabinet. This is Ulsan's quite an interesting space. I don't know how far it actually is from Busan, but that was historically Microsoft was down there, and there was lots of domestic stuff going down in the south. But yeah, SK powering ahead. Korea continues to be dominated by local players. Although they did also announce this week some shaky quarter earnings and laying off a large number of their management team, so maybe they're aligning more of their business to data centers.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go, Korea. Anyway, that was the news from the last couple of weeks, and you'll see us again later in the week for this week's news. Thank you for joining us, and
we will get back to regular scheduling.
Yeah, our next event partnerships are
stuff.
ITW Data Clouds in Singapore next month, and then we're doing PTC as always in January, so expect some promo videos from us on those.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks everyone.
Cheers.